Hey, how you doing? This is John and Tonic. Welcome to John and Tonic, where we talk about movies and comics, whatever we feel like talking about. You want, and we're going to talk about Alien, the first Alien movie from 1979. How you doing?
Very good. How you doing?
Good. I'm glad you suggested I rewatch this because I saw this in the movie theater. My older brother's a big horror movie fanatic.
Mhm.
We used to go to see Friday the 13th and Halloween and all the horror movies. We saw this one, and I just watched this the other night. It's as if I never saw it.
Yeah.
So literally I haven't seen it since 1979, and then I saw it a couple of days ago, and I might as well have never seen it because
Yeah.
First off, I loved it. Let's get that out of the way. It was better than I remember. I must have been like watching it like this as a kid.
Right.
I'm trying to think. I was 9 years old. No, I was 11. I was 11 years old when I saw it in the movie theater. So I don't know.
I was -2.
You were -2. It's
I
hard
had
to win through the belly button, right? Yeah.
right. Yeah. I wasn't even that far along. Like this was a year before I was in existence.
So yeah, I already talked a lot. What do you think?
Oh, it's easily my favorite franchise of movies, maybe ever. So I'm kind of biased on that. I love it. I've seen it hundreds of times, I'd imagine by now.
Oh, okay.
And you know, it has so many things where Dan O'Bannon, who came up with the story, big, he was a big heavy, he did the heavy metal comic and stuff like that a lot. He kind of created modern sci-fi. And then you have H.R. Giger designing the alien and the ship and stuff like that. And I think Mobius, he handled the spaceships, the human technology, and then Giger handled the alien technology. And but then just on top of it's kind of a one of a kind movie to where I don't think even Ridley Scott has been able to do what he did there again, and it's just very fascinating to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna watch Aliens this weekend, the sequel, and I saw the first three movies in the movie theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody told me Aliens 4 Resurrection was terrible. I was in college at that point, and I was broke, so I was real picky about what I was going to go see. So that was the end. I saw I think it was Prometheus. I just caught it on the table, and that's something that surprised me. The spaceship from Prometheus, is the spaceship from Alien.
Right.
I have no recollection of that. I was like, oh my god, because it's an odd-looking design.
Yeah, it kind of is. So, in the first Alien, they get the distress beacon, they go to it, and they land on LV-426, and they find the derelict spacecraft. It's a crashed spacecraft from an alien species that was flying it. They go into the ship, and they go down, and they find these eggs that are a different alien species. So the ship wasn't the xenomorph ship. It was what is now we know as the engineers, because Prometheus says, oh, that big thing sitting in the chair? These are them, and they made these aliens and whatnot. But Prometheus takes place on, don't quote me on, I think LV-223 is what I want to say it is. And it's a moon that's next to LV-426. So it's the same ships. It's the same model of ship of that we see in the first movie, but it's not the actual first. Like that is
right. Yeah. When I said it's the same ship, I mean it's the same design.
Exactly.
Ship.
Yeah.
It's not the same. So that I've had no recollection of that.
But then Alien Covenant goes completely off rails and never gets to a point to explain how we get back to Alien. And I'm curious if Disney, now that they own Alien and all the guys that are working on them, if they ever get back to trying to explain, because Prometheus, its original idea was that engineers created mankind, and then 2,000 years ago they sent one back to Earth. One goes to Earth, Jesus, and he's killed, and so they decide to destroy Earth or to kill all humans. But then that black goo escapes and kills them all, and then humans show up 2,000 years later. Now, someone likely at the studio goes, "You're not going to say that Jesus was an engineer," and but it's still in the movie. You see that it was 2,000 years ago when they were trying to leave to drop goo on humans. So they didn't erase it; they just don't say it.
Yeah.
And then in interviews, Ridley Scott said, "Well, the engineers were in a civil war with each other." And so that's what that ship is on LV 426. They were going to drop those alien eggs, but they escape, and you see that it was a chest burster on the engineer in the first movie,
Right. Yeah.
and it crashes there. But then he got into the whole android may have actually made the aliens and stuff like that. So we don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the lore, and this is just another case. Like when they made that movie, I think they just made a movie.
They had no idea what the
right,
lore.
Right. Like I firmly believe that with Star Wars. They just made a Star Wars movie with. Oh crap! Start writing again. We made a lot of money. We got to make up more stuff.
Oh, definitely. And George Lucas. People put words into his mouth like he had written all these, and like people around him goes, "No, it was episode 4 because it made it sound interesting that wait, there's 3 episodes we've never seen." He used it as like this thing, but he didn't actually have those written. He didn't have episode 5 written yet. He had no idea.
He was just copying the scrolls from Flash Gordon.
Right.
But back to Alien. So first off, one thing I liked was there was no good looking people on the ship. You could say they were classically attractive. Like Ian Holm, later on Bilbo Baggins.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was nothing wrong with the way they looked, but they were regular looking people. Like Harry Dean Stanton's got like the most normal guy at a gas station face you've ever seen in the world. There's something so likable about that guy. And closest with the girl smoking cigarettes. I bet you in another movie they put makeup on her and fix her hair out. It's like, oh wow, But they purposely made them look like normal truck drivers.
Right. Because like Sigourney Weaver, she's played a bombshell in various movies, but they cast people who could do even the men and women, which there's probably 2 or 3 that could be seen that way. They downplayed it to where they fit, where you go, Sigourney Weaver isn't you're not constantly going woo woo, right? She has this
I remember watching Ghostbusters with my current girlfriend's father at the time, and he just goes, "John, she's so hot." And I just agreed with him because you don't want to disagree with your girlfriend's father, but like I never found her attractive.
Yeah, it depends on the movie she's in. And in fact, when she was younger, she put out like the character she played was a much more aggressive type character. It wasn't until she got older that she changed that. And ironically, that's in Alien Resurrection, was made during her I'm going to do sexy roles. And that was, that's hard because you see her in Alien super grounded, and in Aliens and Alien 3, these very grounded. You don't think about that she's this lady like that doesn't play in, just like Sarah Connor. You don't really consider it. It doesn't matter to the plot. And so, but yes, no, I agree. Everything felt from the ship to the characters, this very naturalistic approach.
Right. I mean, I got to give credit where credit is due. That scene where she strips down to her underwear, she's got a phenomenal body.
Right.
But she's Sorry, everybody, but she's the definition of butterface. There's a whole bunch, though. I'm watching the dialogue. Harry Dean Stanton, and forgive me, the only black guy on the ship. Yeah. Those guys' dialogue, the way they talk, those were construction workers that I work with. You know, like I'm crawling around through ducts lately on my job, and there's guys who are installing the ducts. That's the way they talk.
Right.
Like, we're not going to work until we find out what we're going to do with this overtime. Like, those are legit conversations that I hear every freaking day.
Now, you know, a lot of times he gave little direction, and he purposefully, Ridley Scott, antagonized the cast. And so those fights you see when they're yelling at each other around the table and stuff were real. It was the actor yelling at the other actor. And so you have this, and much like you say that nobody's like this sexy bombshell or anything, right? They're very normal looking people. Even we know who Ripley becomes. She becomes the action hero. However, when I first watched that movie, Ripley is the asshole. She won't let the guy in who has a parasite because of rules and regulations.
Right, but she wasn't wrong.
She wasn't wrong. But at that time in Hollywood, especially, but I'd say even now, there was a trope that the person who wants to go by the rules is the bad guy.
Right.
They're a bad guy. And the good guy is the guy going, I don't care what the rules are, right?
Captain Kirk. Yeah, Captain Kirk. Exactly. We're going to, do this.
Exactly. So when you're in a sea of movies to where this trope is so strong, Dirty Harry, so on and so forth, and you say, and then you have this woman saying, no, quarantine is 48 hours.
Right.
He goes, he'll be dead in 48 hours. You do not like Ripley, right? You say
I didn't like any of them.
Right. Well,
I didn't. The best I could say is I didn't dislike a few of them.
Right. Well, see, when I was a kid, Dallas, when I first watched it, I thought Dallas was the hero.
I think he was probably like the best looking actor.
Right.
You know, he had that Chris Christopherson
right
baby face, you know what I mean? I forgot he was even in the movie. And then he was the captain making the hard decisions, and he's like, you know, we're gonna take this guy in and he was wrong. You know,
he was the first to die. And when I was watching that as a kid, and I go, okay, Dallas is the hero, and then it says, and then he dies. I go, no, oh God, you were so set off because the person you were relying on is dead.
Right. He's like, I'm going in. They're like, who's going into the duct? They all look at each other. He goes, me.
Right.
Yeah, Captain Kirk's going in. Captain Kirk.
Exactly. And Captain Kirk dies.
Right. Yeah.
And suddenly you're left with the two maintenance men, the lady who's just screaming the whole time, and then Ripley, who's the bitch who wouldn't let him in, who's all about rules. And so,
the suspicious doctor. I mean, he shows you how long it's been since I've seen that movie. I forgot that Ian Holm was the android.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, what are the? Because I remembered one of them was the android, but I couldn't remember who was. And then I'm like, oh, it's got to be him because he's the one that's like goading the monster in. You know,
right.
You know, we're gonna do this, and if you notice, and I can't believe I can't remember. The black guy goes, use fire, and Ian goes, no. Like, oh, that would have worked. So what? So I'm going to dissuade it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to use my authority as the scientist and doctor. And he just like everybody in the crew said the right thing. Let's do the right thing.
Right.
Oh, we're not going over here. And, you know, and then again, I saw the movie coupled it with the hindsight, you know, and then 20 years of people talking about the movie.
Right.
So I was like, oh, but I could only imagine if I did see it when it first came out, but I was an 11-year-old kid who didn't really pay attention to it. But if I saw that as an adult, as a kid, I think I really would have been blown away. You
Right.
know, especially like you said at the time, where the guy who bucks the rules is the good guy. You know.
Yeah, and I watch it a couple of times a year and have since like the 80s. Um, I can still sit down and watch it and just be blown away. Oh yeah, Veronica Cartwright character. She
The
was
other girl.
yeah, irrational, right? Just screaming, but she did such a that ironically she kind of was the emotion of the viewer, right? That's how we were. We felt just like her.
And I gotta say, here they are in this ship, and I can't, as a construction worker, I just can't help but think of like all these machine rooms. Like every building in Manhattan has rooms that look exactly like these machine shops. You know, I mean the spaceship. I ought to bring up this image to you know, oh, I always hit the wrong buttons, but you know what I mean. This is one of the sets.
Right.
This is me going around through work. You know, there's ducts, there's pipes and stuff like that, and she's smoking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That is 1979. We you know, that's before my time. But when I started in construction, everybody was smoking. Nobody had a helmet. You know, nobody wore vests, and a couple of guys just walked around with open beers, just taking swigs of the beers. You know what I mean? Like nobody, as long as the work got done. And I just got a kick out of that because I can only imagine smoking on a spaceship.
Right.
Even worse, you know what I mean? The air is filtered. It's just another thing you got to deal. But I got a kick out of that they're sitting at the dinner table and she's just smoking. You know, nobody's it's such an old school thing. Like, there's a scene in The Exorcist where Linda Blair's mother's talking to the doctor, and I just crack up laughing in the middle of The Exorcist, which I consider one of the scariest movies ever, where the doctor just goes, "Here's a cigarette," and they're talking and they're both just smoking up in the doctor's office. It's you know, kids today must be like, what the hell? But everybody smoked.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, and I think they've tried to change things with the newer Alien movies. Like, oh, what if we know what our technology is advanced? We know about touchscreens and stuff. What if we do that? Ironically, it feels unrealistic. Prometheus and Alien Covenant both did that. They updated the technology of ships to reflect what we think they might be. And even though we have all these devices, when you see it in a spaceship, you go, no, that don't feel accurate. And accuracy really depends on how you feel. But when you see those CRT screens with the green text and the big, you go, no, that makes sense to me for deep space travel. Because, for instance, a great example of this in the real world is nuclear silos. When it's very important that everything works, they have the giant keyboards. They use floppies for the little access codes and stuff because they need proven technology that's really old. And so all of it's from the 70s. And the entire Russian military, you know, it's all. So the idea that all these ships would be the latest cutting edge touchscreens and holograms. No, they wouldn't be. For one, this is a mining ship. These are miners, right? They just got resources and are coming back. They're nobodies. Their ship would be not the most cutting edge. And then I think later it was the intent when they made it, but they never say it, that it was a decommissioned, like, military something that was retrofitted to be this mining ship.
Right, because it's huge, you know.
Yeah, right. And most of it is these giant things that hold the minerals they've got. And so a very small amount is where they are. So they're in this tiny little part. The rest is just storage for raw material.
They said something like 2,000 tons or something like that.
Yeah. I think at the very beginning, it does say, and I think that's it.
And another thing, like, it's kind of dark, and the two mechanics, the black guy and Harry Dean Stanton, everything's dripping. There's just water like that wouldn't happen in a space. Like maybe, I don't know, but I've never been on a deep space long commission ship.
Right.
But like water dripping in a spaceship to me shows that there's a fault that needs to be fixed.
Massive condensation.
Right. But it makes it more believable. It makes it
Right.
it makes it scarier. It, you know, you'll just ooh. And then when they land on the planet, I really liked that it was like an effort.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, they had to suit up. They had to go into an airlock. The airlock, and they didn't, like, I was watching the movie. I'm like, 40 minutes goes by. I'm like, where the freak are the aliens? You know what I mean? It was all like tension because I knew monsters were coming. You know what I mean? I've seen the movie and 40 years of people talk about the movie.
Right.
And then they go into like they go into another craft. The other craft lands, and that planet is hostile. There's wind. There's darkness. I forget if it was extreme cold or extreme heat, but you know the temperature wasn't good.
Right.
It's one of the things that bothers me is the every planet in the world, every planet in the universe is perfectly suited for human beings in every science fiction movie.
Hell, you know? Even Kirk can take off his shirt. He don't even wear a shirt half of the time.
Yeah, germs schmerms. You know, and then they show the alien ship, and I was like, oh my god! Like I really didn't realize that's how far back that design went. You know, I thought it was cool. Yeah, it really is. After the fact, they all went on to become superstars.
Right.
You know, they all became big names.
Yeah, and it is like you said before. What the interesting thing about Alien is that they didn't fully know what the lore, expansive lore, but that was the benefit of it. That, I mean, the title is Alien. Alien is unknown,
right?
And so they deliberately said, you don't know what this giant thing's ship is or what these things are, and that's terrifying because most movies like Star Wars or Star Trek over explains. You know, it's the least alien thing.
Right. That's kind of why I kind of lost interest in Aliens, because now it's contradicting itself, and
right.
You know, what's his name? The actor who's now the robot. You know, I can't.
You mean
David? The character's name. You know what I mean? Now, what did David mean? It's like no, it's supposed to be a mystery. Like the original Alien was lightning in a bottle. They just wrote a screenplay. How am I going to scare the crap out of people?
Right.
Okay, there's a ship. This ship has aliens. Doesn't matter. And I can imagine Ridley Scott and I forget the guy who actually wrote it, but I can imagine them just sitting there getting a kick out of people trying to explain everything.
Right.
You know, for them that meant that you cared.
I actually have. Do I? I think I got it from my wife. Yeah, it's in our safe. It's an original script of Alien by Dan O'Bannon, signed, I believe.
Oh, cool.
I should have thought about that before. I think that's true. So anyways, and his script was that, like, none of the characters have genders. So Ripley is just a person.
Right.
And so, and even to the final script, they didn't place a real personality on the characters. It was left up to the actors, and they just cast, and then that took off. And so you could see how much the actors influenced what the movie really was. But also he did have more lore that is a lot of what they used in Prometheus. So Prometheus used a lot of elements from Dan O'Bannon's. He originally had it to where it was a moon, and they land, and there's this giant Giger like dome temple, and they go down inside. It's not a spaceship, and that's exactly what happens in Prometheus. So in his original script, they found the engineer's place on that moon. He ends up recycling that for Prometheus, but that was the original idea. And originally it was vases that had goo inside them. So again, Prometheus. So most of Prometheus is actually just using Dan O'Bannon's original script ideas this time. But they rewrote it where they go, no, let's have it a crash ship and let's have it these alien eggs and stuff like that. But yeah, you see, I mean, Dan O'Bannon was a comic book writer. He did lots of scripts also, but like for me, I know him best as the guy who wrote the crazy ass heavy metal comics and stuff like that. The guy in the Corvette, you see it in the movie also, but it's in it was in one of the early heavy metal issues. But in the heavy metal cartoon, the guy in the Corvette that's in space, like it opens up and then it drops this it's a 57 Corvette or something, and the astronaut's in it and he's flying through space. That was Dan O'Bannon.
Okay.
He wrote that. So when you have with how experimental and crazy heavy metal sci-fi was, and then you have that guy say, yeah, but what if a giant budget and a movie? And then they brought in more, like Alien had a lot of influence from the heavy metal magazine and that culture of comics of that time. So Mobius came in to do design for the suits and stuff like that. H.R. Giger, who was in heavy metal a lot, they brought him in to draw the alien. So ironically, there was a heavy comic book influence, just the more not the mainstream DC Marvel. It was the more kind of higher scale talents from Europe and stuff like that all came together to make this crazy ass experience that, yeah, you watch the Alien today or you watch it in 1979, anytime in between. And unless you've seen it before, you've never seen anything like it. Like, it's never been repeated. And
it's a guy in a suit. It's a rubber puppet that pops out of the guy,
right.
I like that so much better than CGI seems like.
Yeah, Alien, so they got that guy, I forget how tall he was, crazy tall. And he was a Nigerian.
He's skinny.
Yeah, he was very skinny and very tall. And they put H.R. Giger made so a lot of designers, they'll draw it and then it's sent off for fabrication, but not Giger. Giger draws it, he then builds it, because the guy is he was very multi-talented. He could do anything in his head. He could put it into a solid 3D object. He could paint it. He could sketch it, draw it, any way his hands could do it. So he builds this alien suit. He had help, obviously, but he built this alien suit, and the guy wears it. And to this day, nothing is more frightening than the movements of that guy in that suit. And Aliens, James Cameron, he's a different type of director who clearly, I mean, he's the highest grossing director of all time. And we are talking about Aliens today because of James Cameron. Alien wasn't big enough to justify everything that came after. James Cameron did that, but Alien is kind of the most art house, where you can just digest this thing over and over and get completely different, like, little minor details. But anyways, they then used a more animal thing for Aliens in Alien 3. The alien often might run on 4 legs, and it would run really fast. But to me, the most frightening scene ever is in Alien, and its arms are out like this in front of it, and they're just going like this, and it appears to be just like they have him on wheels sliding him across the screen. It was probably because he couldn't move. He couldn't move very well. But it was haunting that this thing just glided. It didn't walk like a creature. It just glided with the insane hands sticking out in front of it.
One thing I liked was when she was in the escape pod,
mm-hmm.
and then you see the alien, it sticks its head out, and you could tell, like, I'm sure seeing it for the first time, I probably didn't notice because I was too busy being scared, but I'm watching, and you could tell that the actor was aware that this helmet wasn't rubber or what, like it was probably some sort of like plastic mold or whatever. So
Right.
he had to move and then turn, but it made it look realistic. Like,
Right. Yeah.
you know,
I think his head was in the.
It would have moved out perfectly.
I think his head was in the neck. So to make it even taller, its neck kind of comes up to here.
Oh, so his eyeballs are probably down here.
Exactly. And then they put that thing on top of it. And now I will say, yeah, that guy in the suit was the most, they've never been able to make the alien as scary as the first movie. As technology advances, they're actually less scary.
Right, because like I said, that's the point I was trying to make. It's the little flaws that make things realistic.
100%.
Flaws, like you can't really. I don't know, unless you're some sort of super genius, you're not gonna put like CGI flaws, like him coming out and you the hesitation of which way should I move my head.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And
like you said, he can't move it, so we're going to put you on a little freaking wooden dolly and push you.
Right, and push you. And then the view,
bizarre, yeah.
Yeah, the viewer is just like, why is it floating? That's scarier than if it just walked.
Right, and if it was CGI, they would have had it perfectly moving, you know.
Exactly, yeah, they'd have it walking slowly and not be scary. I will say that if you watch the new TV show on Hulu, Alien Earth, it is a guy in a suit because it's a TV show. They couldn't afford the CG and alien running around. They built a suit and you can tell it's a guy walking around at least most of the time. There's some movements that are so like it's leaping that I would go, it'd have to be CG, but they did it to where if they did do some CG, they scanned the guy in the suit and just so that they could make the guy in the suit move in a way that would be too hard for him. But it is a guy in a suit and you tell and you go, boy, that does make all the difference.
Well, look at all the Godzilla movies. People don't like it when it's a CGI Godzilla. They like a guy in a rubber suit.
Yeah, it's good. You know, another great example of Michael Keaton in the Batman suit. So he couldn't move his neck or it would rip the mask off his head.
I remember him turning like
right. Him standing,
leans back.
Him always looking straight and then he turns his whole body was the most dynamic thing ever. And by the time Christian Bale with Dark Knight, they gave it this pivoting neck so he could turn. I was like, it's not as good. I understand how they could think that. Like, well, it would be cooler if he could move his neck. It's like you would think, but no, I loved that Michael Keaton's Batman. It didn't look like he couldn't move his neck. It looked like he refused to. Like, like how he's standing facing the camera and there's the doorway next to him and he just steps out and like goes wah-pah, right to the guy. That was amazing. Like it looked amazing. It was, you didn't think, oh, well, they had to come up with moves that this guy could actually do in this frickin' suit. We don't know that, so we just think the guy is super cool. Alien, certainly that, to where the lack of ability to do different made them think outside the box and come up with something terrifying. And then, yeah, as CG took over, we got diminishing returns.
There's a couple, like back to the sets. This is my favorite set in this.
Yeah, Mother.
It makes no sense whatsoever, but it's cool and it's science because it's blinking lights.
Right. A giant AI. So, I mean, it kind of. So you'd think that room would be like 1 million of our servers all put together into one room. And if you look at a server, it's a giant box with a bunch of flashing lights on it. So technically, it's not totally inaccurate that there's this massive server that you can walk inside. Now, we're never fully explained to what Mother is.
Right, but this is them in the womb.
Right.
Exactly. Look at the door; it's like a cervix, you know.
Exactly.
It's all white and blinky. Mm-hmm. I just remember watching it, just like this is so retro future, and I love retro future. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is. You're right. And there's tons of aspects of Alien. If you stop, they put Ridley Scott, H.R. Giger, and all of them put a massive amount of thought into every aspect. Like this, you wouldn't think about it. You walk down this hallway, you open this door, there's this big round room, and there's Mother, and you talk to Mother on it. No, it's obviously the womb. You walk down the cervix and you go through the cervix deal, then there's a giant womb you're in, and it's the only clean place in the entire ship.
Right.
And that's
Everything
where
else is dirty and covered
Right.
with moisture, water is dripping and steam. You know?
Yeah, and Mother controls everything. So they go and talk to this thing, this AI. We assume it's. I think now by now they've. At first, I think in Alien they didn't really explain what this thing was. Were they communicating with the company back home, or? But in hindsight, they. In later movies, it is. Oh, this is a AI that speaks for the company.
Right.
Because they can't trust Dallas with confidential information. So the AI is actually the captain. Mother runs the ship. Dallas can talk to her, and if she thinks he needs to know, she may tell him information, but only on need to know basis.
Right. And why can't I think of Ian Holmes' character's name? But he actually, like, one thing I wasn't sure of, they were just on a mining operation, and then they just happened to catch this signal, and that triggered like hidden protocols, or was it always that they knew that they were going to go near this alien ship?
Well, now, right. And see, back then, that was the big mystery. Well, now we know, due to later movies, they knew this, they very much knew this thing was on that planet. And they redirected that ship on purpose to send it down there to get the xenomorph. But yeah, when the movie first come out, we really don't know exactly. It does seem like they knew it was there, but then, yeah, on the other hand, it could have just triggered these protocols they already had.
To me, that would make sense, and I can't help but be logical about everything. Because think of it from the company's perspective.
Right.
We're going to send these miners, and I assume that these guys are getting paid into bank accounts. You know what I mean? It's
right.
Like during the, and then they get a bonus when they deliver their whatever their tonnage.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting paid, whatever. The ship costs money. Like, I imagine there's insurance. I can't help but think of stuff like that. So if the whole thing was a ruse, the whole mining operation was, how much time did they mine? Because just landing was an effort. I could only imagine how much time and effort and resources they used up, fuel and whatever. So
right.
If the whole thing was an excuse to get, wouldn't they have found it on the way there?
Well, here's my guess. It was a legitimate mining operation.
And yeah.
And they sent them all out there because you got it. Here's the one hitch with alien movies. Star Trek and Star Wars use faster than light travel, right, but it looks unrealistic. So Alien said, no, these things are just drifting really slowly. Well, that's impossible, but it feels more realistic. But they have to, if they were traveling at the speed of light, just the speed of light, not faster than, it would take them, I believe,
years to go to the closest star.
I think 54 years, because we know what system they were in. They were in the Zeta Reticuli system, which, here's another fun fact, LV-426 is in the Zeta Reticuli system, which is in the real world in the 1950s when the first people to be abducted by alien, Betty Hill and her husband.
Yeah.
She said the gray aliens said that they were from the Zeta. Well, she drew a map. She didn't say where. She just drew a map. Later, people matched that map to the Zeta Reticuli
on purpose. Yeah.
And so then Alien says, oh yeah, they find aliens in the Zeta Reticuli system. So we know where they're at. Let me look up real quick.
But I was like, I mean, they go through slumber, they go to sleep. Now I can't help but think of like the whole world building aspect of that. So how long were they asleep? Were they asleep for decades? Were they asleep for weeks? You know,
Right.
it's to conserve food, it's to conserve oxygen,
Mhm.
and basically keep them from going nuts. You know,
Right.
these guys were all ready to fight with each other before they found the alien. You know what I mean? So I can only imagine, you know, if they just had to sit there being bored while the ship mother is piloting the ship, like what
Right.
would they all be pregnant and then fighting? You know what I mean? Like what's going on? So
Right.
you know, in suspended animation makes total sense.
Oh yeah, because even now they were on their trip back.
Right.
We don't know how long.
How
How
long were they out there? Yeah.
right. So at the speed of light, it'd take them 39 years to get to Zeta Reticuli, and they
Right.
were further than that because I think they say we're only about halfway back.
Right.
So that means they were almost 80 light years from Earth.
Right. So were
Um,
they? So just think about it. If it was close to 8, but we'll round it off to light speed to make it easy. So they were in suspended animation for 80 years.
right,
Then, however long it took to mine, and then so this is 120 years they've been gone. Like, which
right.
implies that these people have no families, no life. They're probably like psychologically like distant.
Insane.
You know what
Now,
I mean? That's why they're ready to fight. You know what I mean? Like they don't care. Like I don't got no family. I got enough to
right
look. You know, or
now,
are they thinking now I could finally go home with all of this money and it's worth being out for 120 years? Because
right,
maybe that's why the black guy was ready. Like, no, listen, I ain't going there. I got money. You know, I'm like,
right,
is it like desperation? Now I finally get to have a life.
right.
You
And
know, I'm
now,
starting from scratch.
and I think in Alien, it does imply they were gone for 12 years. So we're going to have to say that,
It was faster than light, but not fast enough to not.
right.
It's not Star Trek fast. You know what
No,
I mean?
no, it taking them years. But in Aliens, in the sequel, it gets a little weird because they never say it. It was cut out of the movie. But originally, Ripley has a daughter on Earth. That and who grows up and passes away while she's lost in space. That does bring up a few like problems due to how long she would have. If she was gone just 12 years, still her daughter could have been 6 years old or
Right.
6 years old and been in her 20, almost her 20s by the time she gets back. They cut that out of the movie, so you can kind of say whether she really had a daughter on Earth. I don't know. Um, but I think in the first movie they do imply 12 years, so that would be way faster than the speed of light. However, we never see the ship moving that fast. It's drifting very slow, where it would have took them, in fact, billions of years to do their trip.
Well,
Now,
yeah. Well, the ship has mass.
right.
Slow down to be evil to help that distress call would probably have taken a month.
No, you're right, because when it shows the ship the first time, it has already slowed down because we see the monitors flickering because it had slowed down for the thing. So they just skipped to the part to where it would be moving fast. But then in all the movies following, never has a ship been moving faster than that. They're all just drifting through space. And I think it is because Alien is about feeling grounded, not about being grounded,
Right.
right? There's a difference between feeling realism and showing the real idea, like what it would have to be. Star Trek is the most realistic by far, um, but it doesn't feel realistic at all. But it is, that's how it would have to be for that to take place. Alien feels the most realistic, but is even more unrealistic than Star Wars, which is and Star Wars is in the middle of, well, no, but
Star Wars is science fantasy. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
exactly.
yeah.
And
Star Trek is science fiction, but I, you know, but I was just thinking like, what if humans can't deal with faster than light travel? So even if they have faster than light, they still need to be in suspended animation.
oh
Like,
no, you're totally right. For one, I mean, as far as like astrophysics really goes, you can't travel faster than the speed of light.
Right,
It's
right.
them,
But that's the suspension of disbelief.
right.
Yeah,
But as we said, yeah, it would take you 80 years, 120 years to make the round trip scene in Alien. And so, yes, suspended animation. And um,
and you know
even
what would be funny? If inflation went up so bad that the money that they agreed to was worthless in the future.
that's, yeah. And okay, now here's a fun thing. Everything, every hypothesis, like idea about this world you've said is in Alien Earth. That is the story that they've been gone. It's about this spacecraft that goes into deep space to collect these creatures, these various alien species things that they find on these remote planets, and then bring them back to Weyland-Yutani. And this all happens before the Alien movie. But it's sabotaged and crash lands on Earth when on its return trip. They've been gone for 54 years. All of their family has grown old and died, and so on and so forth. And it explores the whole thing that this crew wasn't the best of the best. They were the people who would agree to leave for 54
Right.
years.
I was thinking about, are they criminals, or is it like a guy whose wife left him and he's like, fuck it, I'm out of here. Like, or are they psychologically screened?
Right.
Like, so that like they could deal with isolation.
Yeah. Alien Earth, it goes over a lot of that. I think you'll love the hell out of Alien Earth.
Right. I gotta rewatch the first three movies, and then I gotta watch the fourth movie for the first time, and then because yeah, I like I said, I watched the first three movies. I remember being like angrily disappointed with Aliens 3.
Mhm.
But I think it was Brian Bow, who does Wolf and Batsy comic. He was saying that, or maybe it was you, that each movie was completely different genre. This movie is just classic horror. The second movie was action, and then what'd you say? The third movie was suspense.
Yeah, all four movies are made by some of the greatest directors that there have ever been. So for me, I go, okay, you can't get hung up on each different one, because you have to respect the director who's the greatest in their craft for what they do. So Alien was easily one of Ridley Scott's greatest movies, and he's an amazing director. Then you have James Cameron, who's the most profitable of all time and one of the best directors of all time. And his Aliens movie, it was a perfect movie. Like the action and the drama and all this was perfectly paced.
Right. As much as everybody liked Alien, people talked about Aliens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they quoted it, they acted it out. They, like if you got toys, which I was still not too old, that like some of my friends had, they were like, "Gotta pull back, nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be safe." Like right. I would say, even my friends, when we play role playing games and a monster shows up, somebody says that, "Nuke the site from orbit. It's the only way to be safe." You know what I mean? Like,
oh, and there's little quotes that, like for me, I'll say something, and then I'll pause and say mostly, like where Newt says they only come out at night mostly. Anyways, I say mostly all the time. Oh yeah,
game over, man. Game over, man. Yeah,
Bill Pullman, come on, legendary.
What is that actor's name?
Bill Pullman.
Bill Pullman.
Well, no, I'm sorry, Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton. Bill Pullman is another guy. Bill Paxton. He was also Chet in Weird Science. What a great actor! But
he was also in Terminator as the punk at the very beginning. The Arnold Schwarzenegger goes, "Give me your clothes."
Oh, that's right. I never would thought, but I know that he, that actor and that character, game over, man.
Yeah.
Me and my friends, we had a role playing game, and it was. This was when I moved to college, so it was a different set of guys, and I couldn't sell them on a superhero role playing game. So I sold them on, it's in the future, and they have superpowers, and what do they do? They're working for corporations, so it became like a corporate espionage, and it turned into superheroes because that's what I wanted. But one of the things is, there were superheroes like protecting, freighters going back and forth. It was almost like superheroes meet. Why can't I think of that new show that everybody seems to like? Where it's the inner solar system. They don't really go the Expanse. So it's like Spears meet the Expanse, but this was in the 90s, and their head of security was. I just told him. I said it's the actor Bill Paxton, but his name was Shitter. That was his name, and Shitter. All he talked about was you got to find a bathroom. When you're in space, you got to find a good bathroom. A good porta potty is indispensable, And they gave him the nickname Shitter, and like it was just so funny because he was like, "Hey, Shitter, pretty good. Found a good bathroom today, guys." And Shitter, Bill Paxton, and he just quoted, "Game over, man. Game over. Nuke the site for more." And so, like, he was like to the point when Shitter finally died.
Yeah,
they were mad at me, man. My was mad and at one point they found it like, Shitter, why are you always working whatever time of day? Shitter was always on call. All right, why are you working all? So I made up on the spot that Shitter's mom had like an incurable cancer, and the superheroes like, we got to save Shitter's mom, and that became like a full-on story of saving Shitter's mom from cancer, and then Shitter died. He's like the greatest NPC of all time, and it's all from Aliens,
Yeah, and funny, Aliens, is that when Hudson, which was Bill Paxton, when he dies, it's like the first Alien movie when Dallas dies, right? He's your favorite person, and you go, well, what's going on here? It's this destabilizing moment, and which became a hallmark of the Alien franchise. And a lot of people didn't like Alien because of that, or Alien 3. Now, me, I loved all three. I thought Alien 3 was a masterpiece as much as the first two. But I felt the hit of Hicks and Newt dying right off the bat, and then Ripley dying. However, I felt that it was where the story was going. This was not Star Trek. It was not Star Wars. There was not going to be a happy ending ever to this thing.
Right. You just reminded me why I didn't see Alien 4. Because Ripley died, and then she was the star of the movie, and I'm like, nope, I'm out. I'm out. Like dead means dead. Even back then, I was hard. That.
And now I would say, okay, technically, it's not Ripley even remotely. So
right, I remember that spurred on another. This was the same game group. We were having so if you clone somebody, we were making it like, oh, if my character dies, we could just clone him, right? I'm like, yeah, but then your character is first level, doesn't have all that training expertise, doesn't know anything. Like it's just a new person who looks like. But that's not what cloning is, and it all stemmed from that movie. No, I said that's resurrection. We don't have resurrection in this game,
right? And see, oddly enough, that's exactly how they play it. Sigourney Weaver develops an entirely different personality, skill set. She walks different, talks differently. Everything about her is different. She looks like Ripley because she's this clone,
unfortunately,
but she has none of what Ripley was. And I think it was deliberate because this isn't Ripley. And in fact, the main point of that movie, maybe I shouldn't tell you because you haven't seen it. Anyways, they clone her. Let's just say there's some mixed stuff going on with what she actually is.
She's so, right? Yeah, I mean, it's
exactly her.
You pick up stuff, even though
they got the DNA from Fury 161. I hope that number's right. I think it is. The prison place she was on Alien 3. So she already had an alien inside her. That's the DNA they got. Well, come to find out, the xenomorph corrupts your DNA. And so when they cloned her, the clone, she has a mix of human and alien. So she's not Ripley at all. They call her Ripley, and she kind of looks like her vaguely. But she's not. Now, a few back things to Alien Resurrection before you watch it. The director is one of the greatest French directors of all time. He's amazing, but he's French.
Yeah, he directed that other movie with Ron Perlman.
Yeah,
Why can't I think of City of Dreams or
Children of City of the Damned, Children of the Damned, or
but that was an excellent movie, and it's Ron Perlman talking French,
right?
and it's City of Lost Children or something like that.
There you go, City of Lost Children. Yes, one of my favorite movies of all time, and yeah, and Ron Perlman is in Alien Resurrection. Most of the cast from that movie is in Alien Resurrection. The biggest problem is two things. It was written by Joss Whedon.
Oh God.
Google stop. It was written by Joss Whedon, which I have a love-hate. If he has a really good second and third draft, he can write something really good. On his own, without an input, he can do some cringe things. Alien Resurrection.
My favorite thing by him is still Dr. Horrible sing-along blog.
Oh, right. Yeah. And so the movie has Whedon-esque things going on the whole time. However, visually, it's stunning because of, I know his name's Jean-Pierre Pignot or something like that. Let's just say Jean-Pierre because we can say that. Jean-Pierre, his visual style is, very distinctive, like Tim Burton and stuff, right? Where you know it when you see it.
Right.
And he brings that to Alien. So you say, okay, we had Ridley Scott with this very dirty, like slow-paced, very quiet type thing. Then you have James Cameron saying, I am the best there ever was at the biggest movies you've ever seen. And he does it. Then we have David Fincher, who's like, I'm going to break you. You're going to watch this movie and be suicidal when it ends. I mean, Alien 3 has all of it was his first movie, like his first theatrical movie. And it had already had all of the visual cues and everything we would see in 7 and his giant masterpieces. And it's funny that he disowns it. And I go, there is no movie more David Fincher than Alien 3. It was his movie, and that's why I love it, because it's so David Fincher.
Well, it's 2:00 now, and I have to leave for work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so
all right.
Anything you want to say to close this up? I'm glad. I like this series, so this is fun.
It's fun. You should watch. Oh, wait. You should wait. On the 23rd, the final episode of Alien Earth comes out. You definitely should watch that because it's funny. All the little things you're bringing up, I'm like, oh my God, dude, you'll love Alien Earth so much.
I'm gonna watch Aliens this weekend, and I'll probably watch Alien this weekend or Alien 3.
Yeah.
They don't have a cool. They should have said Aliens.
Right.
But anyway, I guess we got a bunch of people watching. So guys, I'm sorry I could have talked for another hour, but I got to be at work at 3:30, and it's up in the Bronx. I got to go driving, and I have to take into account for traffic. So back Heroic Tales 2, David promised me that the comic will be finished coloring by tonight, which means I'm waiting on 2 more pages to letter. Then I'm just going to send it to my editor just because there's some dialogue that I think needs to be pepped up, but I'm waiting for all of it so I can read it all in one, and then we're going to pep up the dialogue. We do the format, go to printing. So we're a couple of weeks behind schedule. I'm sorry. I'll do an update. I try to do my updates on Friday. Anything you want to promote, push, tell us, Tonic Bowl?
Yes. You can still go back, Saving the World Omnibus that collects the first 12 issues. That's on Kickstarter. If you just type into your search browser, Saving the World Omnibus, it will definitely pop up. And you can just go back that, and there's lots of options and where you can buy anything and all this. And you can get a lot of my back issues on eBay. There's tons of places. I would very much appreciate everybody going and getting Save the World number 12 omnibus. And it will be, I'm wrapping up all the art and everything like that. And So it'll be probably a month out or so to start shipping, and digital should be out pretty soon. Um, and so, yeah, give me your money.
Yeah, and it's a good comic. I really like it.
It's the best comic I've ever read.
Yeah, it's the best comic he ever wrote and drew.
That's right.
Colored. It's so good that Tonic Mole and I are making a comic together.
Yes, we are.
It's chugging along. Oscar is drawing some pages. Tonic's drawing some pages, and did you see? Did I send you the back cover of Patriarch #1? Did I show that to you? Because they're reading it. They're all reading comics, and one of them is saving the world.
No, I haven't seen that yet.
I'll send it to you now. But I really got to get going. If I leave right now, I may or may not be at work 15 minutes early. And if you're early, you're late. That's the philosophy. So thanks a lot, guys. And I'm going to do my outro now before I talk again, because I'm so easily distracted. And luckily, my foreman is always 40 minutes late. So it's just going to be me by myself. So right now, bye, kids.
Goodbye, kids.